Good evening. Welcome to the school committee meeting on Thursday, January 4th. This meeting is being recorded by WCTV and broadcast by WCTV. Audio recorded by Jamie Wixton. Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will begin with public participation. Is there anyone that would like to address the committee? Seeing no one, we'll move on to good news. Anyone have to share some good news? Joyce.
So earlier this week, Principal Palladino shared with us at a school council meeting the improvements that were made at the high school, and he gave me permission to share this good news. I'm sure you know. That the lights in the auditorium have been repaired.
Oh, that is good news.
Has been something. So thank you to Mr. Palladino and to everyone else who came together to make that project happen, because we all know that really, really needed to happen. And the second bit of good news is that the superintendent and I today went and were judges at the DECA competition in Hyannis, the district competition. Wareham was really well represented with students, judges. There were other Wareham graduates there judging, Wareham graduates there who are now DECA teachers in other districts. So can't wait to hear how the students do tomorrow at awards.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Sweat?
I had the privilege of being at a track meet last night, and I believe, let's see, we beat Tri-County, I believe. At least the girls did. I'm not sure about the guys. If ever anybody's ever been to a track meet, it's organized chaos. There's a zillion people, and somehow the events take place, and they all do better than I would do if I was in their meets. I swear one of them went around the track about 20 times. I couldn't have made it around 5 times. And Mr. Gardner and his coaching staff do an awesome job on behalf of the high school, so kudos to them.
Thank you.
And
Brennan?
I had to look up the score just to be sure, but going along those lines, the boys basketball team won their first match of the season, 75-68 over Old Rochester. It's good to see us, back out there defending our title and, starting off with a win. It's a good thing to see.
Power rankings come out Friday,
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much.
I think.
Next up, we have the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients. So Mr. Palladino is going to join us up front here, and he'll read off the names of the recipients. We'll ask them to come up front. I would have the school committee, I think, come up also, and we want to really recognize these students for these excellent academic achievement. I know that sometimes the perception of our students is not fair. You guys do exactly what we want. You guys work hard, you study hard, you achieve, and you bring honor to Wareham, and we really appreciate that. So we thank you for your hard work. And after this quick ceremony tonight, when we honor you for that and this distinction, we expect you to go home and finish your homework tonight. So thank you.
Perfect. So what I'd like to do is first read off the names of the students that are here, if that's appropriate.
Sure.
And I just want to preface that by saying we have a lot of kids that are at the DECA competition, some that are working, some that are at practices, but it's a great group. And so I thought it'd be appropriate to start with the students that could make it here today. And it looks like we have 4 students that were here, that were able to be here. So why don't we start with that? Our first of 4, Coral Davis. Come on up. Sammy Kalini. Gisela Priestley. And Malachi Samuels.
If we could just have you guys turn around and have them make a line face the camera for WCTV so they can reward you. School committee, if you want to stand behind real quick. And again, we want to thank you and congratulate you for your hard work and success. Ladino's taking a photo. Excellent.
Awesome, thank you. I would like to read off the rest of the names. As I mentioned, a lot of these students are very busy and couldn't be here, but they did respond to the email. Brooklyn Bindis, Christopher Bruno, Caitlin Kavakis, William Halloran, Eliza Huff, Nirvana Lake, James McEwen, Tate Peterson, Kiera Pierre, Elijah Place, Alex Rocha, Woody Salim, Isaac Strawn, Kylie Sullivan, Robert Sylvia, Lillian Versace, and Michaela Young. So that rounds off our Abigail Adams Scholarship. And as you may remember, this scholarship is for any state school, college, university, et cetera, and it can equate to as much as $8,000 during their four-year tenure in college. So it's a significant scholarship. And as I tell all the students, even if they have a better option to go to a private school, it still really looks awesome on their resume. And as a member of a couple of scholarship committees, it's always impressive to see that on the resume. So even though they may not utilize it, it still is strong on the resume, and it means something when they apply to other private schools as well as state schools. So thank you for recognizing our students, this great group.
I think I've asked this question before. Do you have any idea what percentage of the people who win these awards actually use them?
I can only speak for Wareham.
Yeah.
And it's about 60 to 65% of the students
Well, I'm
utilize it.
thrilled to hear that.
Yes, it's our students are smart. They have a lot of savvy in regards to business and finance, a lot more than I ever had, and they make smart decisions. Sometimes when we look at the schools they get into and the schools they actually attend, it can be somewhat frustrating because they get into some pretty elite schools. But these kids are smart enough to take a look at the awards and to see what they're actually going to be paying, and they understand what it's going to take to pay that back after they graduate. And they make really sound decisions that a lot of my contemporaries didn't necessarily make.
Yeah, they still get zapped big time with room, board, and fees, but this is still a big number.
And for most of them, probably all of them, this will not be the only scholarship they'll receive. So there'll be other scholarships, both locally and at the state and national level.
I'm thrilled to hear that 60+%, because that's, as you say, I agree with you 100%. That's very smart.
It is. Well, thank you once again for
Thank you.
recognizing them. Students, you heard from the chairman, go home and study.
We also have one more student recognition tonight. Unfortunately, this student could not be with us for a previous commitment. I'll let Dr. DeAndrea explain this next award.
Thank you. One of our students, a JROTC student at Wareham High School, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Robert Sylvia, you might have heard his name called, for the Adams Scholarship. He's been awarded with the Legion of Valor Bronze Cross given for community service in academic and extracurricular accomplishments. It's a national award given to a very select group of young men and women across the nation. 1 out of every 4,000 JROTC cadets nationally receive this award each year, and he was selected this year. He's a 12th grader, so congratulations. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here. He's working. Very committed to his job, so good for him. And but congratulations. We're very proud of him.
Does it come with any money? Does it come with any money?
Thank you. Students, you are free to, you do not have to stay for the rest of the meeting. Feel free to take off. Thanks again, guys. Okay, next up, we have the Class of 2024 trip proposal.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michelle Medina. I'm one of the class advisors for the seniors this year.
I'm Sammy Tarasconi. I'm the co-advisor.
And we are here because the kids are all at DECA. So we're going to present to you. We are hoping to bring them to New York City this year for a day trip for their senior trip. During senior week, it would be Monday, June 3rd, 2024, which is the Monday of graduation week. It's just for the day, so they would leave early around 6 a.m. and then leaving New York to come back around 6 p.m. So depending on traffic, we get back before midnight. And then the cost, our goal is to keep it under $100. The class has done an amazing job with fundraising, so the class can cover the cost of the bus, so the students would only need to pay for whatever activity they vote on to do while they're there. So at the end of the month, our next class meeting, they're gonna decide, do they wanna go to a Broadway show? Do they wanna go to a museum? Do they wanna tour NBC Studios? They submitted a bunch of ideas, so they will vote on what they wanna do. So that's the only thing that they would need to pay for, aside from like food and shopping and whatever else they do while they're there. And we do have a couple more fundraisers scheduled, but we do have students that have already paid off senior dues, their prom ticket, and their trip already. So we've done a lot of fundraising, even just in the last couple of months, but there's still a couple planned, so they can reduce the cost and not have to pay anything to go if they fundraise. So we'll take any questions.
Joyce?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say I think it's a great idea. It's affordable. It's one day. It sounds like a great trip.
Do they get released in the city and go on their own, or what happens?
No, they'll be in groups. They'll have supervision.
You said that they were going to vote on what they wanted to do. Would it be possible for there to be different activities? Could some kids go to a Broadway show, some kids go to a museum? Would they be able to do that, or is everybody going to have to decide on one big activity to do?
We can make whatever they want to do happen. It's their trip. So
As long as you don't go
we'll see
anywhere
how it
near,
goes.
as long as you don't go anywhere near Yankee Stadium. No,
I grew up in New Jersey.
I don't care.
I was a Yankee,
I didn't.
I was a Yankee fan before you were born.
Any other questions of the trip? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? 400. Congratulations and have a great trip.
Be safe.
Always.
All right, next up, Student Advisory Report. Do we have any Student Advisory Committee members? Giselle, why don't we just do a 2-for-1 here then? So we'll have Student Advisory and then Student Representative Report.
We were actually supposed to have another student here, and I'm not sure if maybe we're ahead of schedule, but hopefully they'll be filing in shortly. But I just want to thank all of the student advisory representatives that we meet every other week, and Gisela is the heart and soul of the group. Obviously, being a senior, she's been with us for 4 years in this capacity, but they've been doing a lot of work, and I'm really excited. And one of the pieces that you'll hear about is the survey that they completed in regards to the course of study and courses the students would like to see. So I'm going to turn it over to Gisela, and that's just one piece that.
Do we want to maybe have Gisela start with the student rep report
I'm
first?
sorry, did
No,
I
that's,
jump
no, that's okay, just in case the other person happens to come.
Sorry, thank you.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine.
that's perfect.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab my notes.
I don't want them to come for nothing.
Okay. Not too many notes, but as usual, starting off with clubs. Dr. Roth has claimed that his Music Mondays have again been a success. His last advisory had over 25 students who came to listen and do work, while around 20 students played songs that they have been practicing. As has been mentioned before, DECA had a competition today with a lot of students going. Newspaper Club is getting ready to submit their first articles of the year to be read by the student population. And theater has just had its festival auditions today, which is incredibly exciting, and we are incredibly grateful that we have lighting in the auditorium. Everyone was shocked.
Probably not the best word to use in that.
Probably not the best word, but just incredibly grateful that we're having the needs of our students met incredibly quickly, because we know it's a long process. With Key Club, my last note on clubs, We recently had our mental health week, which we have been working on for a while now with a mental health grant that we received from Key Club International. We had service dogs. We posted over 600 sticky notes on lockers throughout the entire school with motivational quotes and ways to receive help. We are on Monday, January 8th, we are going to be having 2 signs put up in front of the counseling suite along with the guidance suite, highlighting what the resources we have at our school. And my last note is there's an upcoming UMass Dartmouth on-the-spot decision day that lots of students are excited to take advantage of.
What's that?
It's a on-the-spot decision day, so for students who are interested in going to UMass Dartmouth, they're able to have their applications read and have decisions come out fairly quickly.
Oh, wow.
They get interviewed on the spot instead of having to go to UMass Dartmouth and be interviewed, and it's pretty cool.
And so those are my notes.
Thank you, Gisella. Mr. Sweat?
So, tough question, and I apologize for that. 6 decades ago, I was in high school, and I don't remember mental health being an issue at all. What do you think the difference is? What is it that's making 2023 so stressful for high school students, and maybe any student?
I think that's a really good question. The first part of it is I think students in general have been stressed since the dawn of time, people in general. I think there's been a stigma around talking about conversations around mental health, and I think that is a big part of why we haven't been seeing conversations around mental health until recently. And in addition, I feel as though students have additional layers of stress, especially when it comes to high school students who are preparing to go off into the world. I think there's a huge stress on the decision of whether or not to go to college, the decision of, not the decision, but the pressure of no longer seeing affordable housing as an option for not even just students, but for young people in general. And I think as we are given more access to seeing the things that happen in the world, I feel as though we're in a more daunting position, and I think we see how times have changed and how it's not necessarily as easy to succeed in certain ways. And I think as college admissions become harder and class sizes at these universities become smaller and more elite and more expensive, I think there's a huge pressure on students to survive and to thrive in highly academic institutions that are incredibly stressful. And I think there's a lot of pressure put on students by themselves and by society. And I think having conversations about them now is incredibly beneficial. And I just think, yeah, if that made sense, that was.
It did make sense. Are you suggesting that part of the reason, I heard 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
One was the communication, instant communication of everything that's happening in the world is certainly different than it was decades ago. And you're so bombarded by it that in and of itself is a source of stress. It's easy to extrapolate a bad event like another shooting in Iowa, today, and all of a sudden, you extrapolate and think, well, it's going to happen in Wareham tomorrow. God forbid. But the other thing I heard was the expectations of adults, whether it's your parents, grandparents, teachers, whatever, are also a source of stress. Did I hear correctly those 2 things?
I think close. I think the only word that I would say could be changed was extrapolation. I think while we do have access to learning about things that we have access to learning about a lot of things, and I think it's not necessarily extrapolation. I think it's seeing the reality in our own communities, as seeing students who try their best to succeed, and as the competition to go to college, especially elite colleges, gets even harder, I think we see students who try their very best and do all the right things and don't necessarily get into these schools or meet these benchmarks that we say students should be at, not grades-wise necessarily, but just like overall. And I think that puts a lot of stress. So I don't think it's extrapolation. I think it's seeing students in our own communities, seeing students and family members in our own community and worldwide. So.
But you did hear Mr. Palladino make a very valid point, which is you can go to a state school, you
Yeah.
can go to UMass Dartmouth, save a ton of money, get a great education, and have that document that says you're a highly educated person and want to be, and an employer will say, great, I want you. And by the way, you have demographics going for you because there are fewer of you today than there were when I was graduating. But so I don't want you to forget Mr. Palladino's great
Yeah.
point. You don't have to go to an elite school,
I agree.
okay, to get a great education and to feel good about yourself.
I completely agree. I just feel as though seeing on social media people who are in older generations than us going to these going to amazing schools that aren't necessarily elite and trying to survive in the workforce, and like seeing like millennials especially trying to survive and trying to buy houses, and just seeing that not as necessarily a feasible option. So I think it's not necessarily the title of an elite school, it's the fear that if I don't do X, Y, and Z, I won't be able to survive in a harsh world.
I could continue this a long time, and so as a courtesy to the rest of the committee, I won't, but I will tell you that every feedback I get from graduates of your high school, certainly the kids that I talk to from the tennis team say that Mr. Palladino is running a school that will prepare you very well for your next step. They always feel well prepared, and they're not afraid to be at college.
I don't think the problem is necessarily fear to go to college or fear that they're going to the wrong college. I think it's the fear of what comes next after college.
Okay.
The fear of, yeah.
But just a quick note, demographics is going to help you. They're desperately looking for educated people to hire. There just aren't enough of them.
So I hope, oh, Brennan?
Well, I just wanted to ask you, you're a quarter of a way through your senior year now. How do you feel about your experience? Like, I mean, we know that we've covered going to college, that Wareham's done a good job with that, but not just the educational component, the social component. Are you happy with your experience so far? Is the school doing enough for you socially and educationally that you feel really prepared and that you're happy with where it's going? Or is there anywhere else you'd like to see it go that maybe we can help guide you?
I think personally, I feel as though there are a lot of opportunities, both academically and socially, but I also recognize that I say that from a place of privilege of being able to have rides after school to help me go to these clubs. And I also recognize that not every student has that opportunity. I also recognize that I have the ability to only work in the summers or during holidays, which not all students have the ability to, so I don't necessarily see it as a major shortcoming of the school whatsoever, because I see Wareham giving so many opportunities to students. The ability for me to even sit here and talk to people who are making change is abilities a lot of students in other schools do not have. And so I think Wareham is doing an amazing job. I just also feel as though there's some external factors that are severely limiting so many students from being able to take advantage of these opportunities.
How can we help that, in your opinion?
In my opinion, one example is, which we've talked about on our survey, is having a late bus. I think clubs help in so many ways, socially, academically, and emotionally. And as we're seeing more and more people feeling extreme emotions of sadness, I think having a community that supports you and lets you grow in all of those aspects is incredibly important. So that's what I would say.
Good answer. Thank you. Appreciate that. Don't go anywhere, because now we're switching
Thank you.
over to the student advisory version of your report.
I think she's ready to go.
So for student advisory, we recently sent out a survey to the school. The difference with this survey, hopefully affecting, as we have seen a decent amount, the amount of people filling them out, is we have a $50 Amazon card.
We had to bribe him.
Yes.
We're bribing him with a $50 Amazon card,
Yeah.
but it's working.
Yes, saying that students who, regardless of what they say, if they submit, if they fill out the Google form, their names will be put into a bucket, which will be not a physical bucket, but a bucket that will be drawn, and students have the opportunity of getting a $50 gift card.
Just to be clear,
Yes.
it's not a bribe, because that's a pejorative, it's an incentive.
There you go.
Some of the questions that we asked on the survey were courses that you'd like to see at Wareham High School, opportunities you would like to see at Wareham High School, and there were lots of students saying that they would like to see computer science courses and poetry courses, which are now going to be a part of next year's course curriculum.
If approved.
If approved. Thank you.
Computer science and poetry.
In addition, we touched on this a couple weeks ago, but we have received the recycling bins and composting bins that we got from MassGov, which has been exciting, through Key Club and JRTC. Along with other students, we have been able to collect the recyclings of students in all classrooms, and we have we have built composting bins which will be set up in the next coming weeks.
And to put in perspective, we didn't have recycling bins in every classroom. So through Gisella applying for the grant and getting free recycling bins, we now have them in every classroom, which is exciting. And I've noticed that the barrels are now full to the brim with the recycled materials every few weeks as they get picked up. So we're trying to do our part to be environmentally friendly, obviously.
Great. Thank you, Giselle. You want to stay another year?
I just had one question. With the surveys that you've been, handing out, what kind of engagement are you getting? Like, I mean, it's one thing you said that, they're not judged on the answer as long as they fill it out, they get it. But are people taking it seriously and really answering it and thinking about it? Or are you getting a lot of, just check the box and move on?
From my point of view, it's a lot of students who have a lot of things to say that are very passionate about the things that they're saying and are excited to hopefully see those changes in our school. So I would say, high 90% of people who fill out the form, it is serious contributions.
Excellent. So, yeah. And I hope they know and that you can take back to them that we do listen. We want the best for all of our graduates, for all of our students. So, let them know this isn't a joke. We do take these seriously. So the better response we get, the better action we can take on it.
Jeff?
The late bus issue was a budget issue, correct?
Many years ago.
That's what I thought.
And it would probably be even a bigger budget issue now than it was pre-pandemic.
We went from 2 late buses a week to 1 late bus, and
And then to none, correct. And we even used to have 4 late buses showing up twice a week, and then it was down to 3, and I think it may have been down to 2 at the tail end. So it was, and it got to the point where it was taking kids over an hour to get home when they did stay after school. So it wasn't user-friendly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Can we possibly work something out with the GATRA, the bus that goes around? I mean,
But I don't know if
certain students
that's,
go in certain ways. I'm just saying, is there anything?
I don't know if we should endorse that.
Budget thing, is there anything that we can spitball ideas on to try to circumvent that? Because it does seem, I mean, I think we can all agree that after-school programs are very helpful for the students. And maybe this is something for another time. I don't want to drag down the meeting with it, but if we know that there's a problem and we need to start working on a solution, what's the best course of action to do that?
Yeah, I think the nice thing about when you have your own bus company, you know who's on the bus. When you start putting kids on public transportation, you don't know who's on the bus. Could be safety issues, security issues. I just think,
Doesn't go to all areas of town either.
Yeah.
It's a big town.
yeah, true.
But like thinking outside the box, and we got to continue to look at that and see what we can prioritize. And
I mean, maybe if we can get them to like a pickup area, if we can work out something with the Y, get them there and have parents pick them up at the Y when they get out of work. So, I mean, I'm just saying that we're being told there's a problem and we say we want to listen. Listening's great, action is better. Gotta be some way to do it cheap.
so thank you, Gisella.
Thank you.
Mr. Palladino, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Giselle.
Very much.
Well, next up, we have the report of the CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee.
Sit here. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Jesse, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Giving a little bit of a review of some of the small events that we've had so far. I mentioned when I spoke in the fall that we did give a survey, and so I apologize, I don't have visuals for a survey, but I'm just going to share some survey data and just talk about some next steps for the spring. So in October, we had our basic rights presentation. By law, every district needs to provide that presentation to parents. We had a small group, 3 parents attended, 2 staff members attended, and the presenter. And then in early December, we had a virtual mental health fair. Again, the presenters were from Care Solace, High Point, and the Plymouth County DA's office. Again, a small but mighty group. We had 4 parents, 1 staff member, and then there were 3 presenters. As Melissa and I kind of debriefed about both of the events, again, frustration that we wish more parents would attend these events, but in both meetings, the parents that were there were clearly engaged, participated, asked good, meaningful questions that it was worthwhile that parent was there. So that gave me hope, and I wanted to look kind of on the positive side of things that both of these presentations made a difference to parents in Wareham. Tentatively, Melissa and I are going to meet later in the month. Tentatively, we will have 3 more CPAC meetings or events, 1 in February, 1 in April, 1 in June. The meeting in February is going to be with a liaison from DESE for the upcoming tiered focus monitoring visit. The liaison wants to, I guess, interview me and also wants to be present at a CPAC meeting to kind of describe the process. So I'm looking at that as kind of like sending information out to families, and he's just going to talk to all the families around what that visit's going to be. As Melissa and I communicated for this meeting, just as an update, so far the district has done the self-assessment for the tiered focus monitoring visit, continues to meet with the Department of Ed monthly, and provides documentation to support SPED and civil rights that are being addressed in the visit and the visits in March. That's all I know. I think a little bit of feedback that I've gotten from a few parents. So when we've sent out information about our meetings, it's been through email and through phone, through just those automated phone calls. I hesitate, but I guess maybe I'll consider social media. Way back when I did CPAC, when my kids were a lot younger, there was an attempt for a CPAC Facebook page, and it was really challenging to try to open it up to, there were parents, there were staff members, there were parents who were staff members, and there was maybe where I woke up really early in the morning getting text messages from staff members and parents mad about things that were posted, so I just said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So I think I know social media. I'm on the Facebook pages of like the high school and the boosters and things like that. So it is a way, I think, to promote the events. I just need to keep it safe comments off kind of thing. So I think that's going to at least get the word out, and then hopefully we can have some more parent participation in our meetings. So as for the survey in the fall, we sent it out early because I did mention, so we had 87 responses, and again, this was September, early October. So I went through everything over the past couple of days. So one of some really basic questions. So, 66 people identified that still meeting virtually is the way to go. So 66 out of 87 said, if there are going to be meetings, I'd rather do them virtually than in person. Some people were able to do both, but that's clearly still, that was kind of an assumption that people like to do things virtually still instead of in person.
For transportation reasons?
I didn't ask that. You know what I mean? Like, that could be one reason. I didn't, like I said, this was pretty basic, but that could be one reason. I mean, some people put that they're not able to attend. Like, that was a choice, and people were honest about that.
These are IEP meetings you're talking about?
No, the CPAC meetings.
Oh.
Yeah, so this was just whoever responded to the survey, and there were actually about 20 to 25 respondents who did not have a child on an IEP. So they could have been community members, they could have had, maybe they're wanting to know more about special ed. So this was just sent to families. In terms of availability of like when parents are available to meet, about half of the respondents said in the evening was the best. And so again, so it's virtual in the evening is kind of what came up as the winners based on this survey. We gave them, so Melissa and I brainstormed a list of topics that we said, what meeting topics or workshops would you want to attend? And people could have selected all of them. Out of the 87 responses, 60 people said they want a workshop on communication with my child's team. So that's 2/3 of the respondents. There were not many comments. There was kind of like a, hey, put in some comments or suggestions. Nobody wrote anything real specific around any of their responses. But I thought that was telling. 2/3 of the people, like, that's what they want support with, is communication with their team. 48 of the respondents out of 87, and again, this is overlapping. People could have chose a number of things. Looking for community resources. 41 respondents asked about mental health, so good job answering the questions, and I was really thinking about my college student as you were asking questions too. 32 respondents want workshops on navigating the IEP process, and then 29 people responded for caregiver rights in special ed and planning for the IEP meeting. But again, like that communication piece stands out, and the principals are here. I know they're here behind me. You know what I mean? So like take that for, that's what people checked off. Like I said, there was the last piece of the survey was add in any additional comments. So there were 5 additional comments, and I will read them. In my experience, the school and administration has been wonderful all around. That was from a parent of middle school age students. How to help the student deal with doing the work without arguing or stressing each other out. So I interpret that as a parent saying, like, I need help with that. This parent did not identify the grade level of the student. Another parent said, it's important to have supports in place for my student to help ensure a successful school year. Thank you for all that you do. And that was a high school age student. Another parent from the elementary level wrote, pick up and drop off communication and needs. That's something that they would be looking for. And then finally, a parent of an elementary and a middle school aged student said, if a parent suspects their child is in need of an evaluation to determine whether an IEP is appropriate, who should be contacted and what is involved? And that was a question that was asked. If anybody wants this, I'm happy to share the survey. I'm not a verbal person, so I'm doing what I would not, sitting there, I would be like, I'm not paying attention to you. So if you need, I can share this with you. I can make charts and things if anybody wants it. No, I can't. I would have to be like writing everything down.
I was just thinking that I wish we had what you have in front of you.
Can I share it with you after the fact? Is that legal? I always know that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I know there are timelines with like agendas. I blew that out of the water, so I'll share it. I'll share it with you. So a couple of events so far. I'm going to meet with Melissa again to plan for a couple, probably one event and 2 meetings for the rest of the year. And then we've got some good information to move forward and think about next year. So I would imagine maybe I could come back after, like if we have an event sometime in April and just kind of report out.
The 87, what's the denominator? That's the numerator, right?
Well, it's all the families in the district. It's anybody who had an email, any email address in the district. So what,
Pretty big number.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So
You
it's.
thought it was a
it's-
good response.
Well, it's enough to make some assumptions as a for directing,
Yeah,
in a direction.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm not saying it's not a good one, but obviously the denominator is pretty big.
yep. Because again, like the CPAC is for any community member, right? And we're not just limiting to,
Parents with IEPs.
yep.
Joyce?
The presentation you did on rights, was that in person or was that on
Both
Zoom?
were virtual. Both
Oh,
events were
okay.
virtual. Yep.
So it's interesting that people say they want virtual, but you still only had 3. And I know how frustrating it is to do all that work, too. But like you said, you had 3,
They were
they
engaged,
were-
they
yeah,
got something
so-
out of it. And so that, like,
right.
that made me happy.
Maybe you need to provide an incentive for them to come.
Amazon gift cards, right?
Have a big wheel behind you.
Big
spinning.
raffle at the end. Yeah, it's.
Or
it's
ice
a
cream.
But you talk
Can't
about
do that
Facebook
virtually.
too, right? So
Yeah.
all 3 schools have great Facebook pages, right?
Yeah.
They're all doing a great job at that. So is that something that maybe you could reach out to the schools and?
Yeah, I think, again, in the previous experience, it's just the comments, and I just don't want that happening at all. So, yeah, I can,
Oh, I get it,
I can
yeah.
figure out
Yeah, I guess
how to
I was
manage
just
that.
talking more about like advertising events and,
Right.
and things that you're doing. Yeah, that's all.
Brennan?
Yeah, as someone that ran a community page on Facebook for like 3 years, Wareham Helping Wareham, I know exactly what you mean. When the pandemic started, it was everybody was getting together, it was rainbows and sunshine, and after about 2 years, it was, this person's doing this and that person's doing,
Yeah.
and it totally,
this was pre-pandemic. my
yeah, and that's the thing,
experience.
it's a lot harder to get people to play nice, but I think Joyce had a very good idea that with working with the schools and maybe seeing if you can kind of piggyback onto their pages, people, going to like the elementary school page, you'd like to think would be a little bit more respectful and, not be so mean with their comments. I mean, you can only censor so much, but that might be one way to help to get good information out there. The other thing that I wanted to say was, as a parent who has a student with an IEP, I've had nothing but wonderful experiences from kindergarten all the way through every grade level, every school level. I feel that the students and the teachers and the staff have bent over backwards for my son. But yet at the same time, you talk to a lot of parents who say, my son has an IEP and the school just couldn't do anything about it, and it's a very negative. So I almost have to wonder, how can there be such a wide range of responses to it? Because I can't imagine that it's just because my son's really cool that everyone's good to him, and everyone else are like, this kid. So I think that that's something you really, we can really focus on, because I think we do a good job with IEPs. I think we do a great job in the, district-wide in responding to them and to trying to identify their individual needs. But one point you said that I found really telling was having a workshop on how to do the IEP process. Because I think that the problem that a lot of parents have is they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they're supposed to be asking for. They don't know what services are available, what is the school's responsibility, what's a medical responsibility, what do they have to do to go through their pediatrician. I've heard from a couple parents who have said, I know my kid has ADHD, or I know my kid's on the spectrum, but he's not diagnosed, but I've seen all the symptoms. And you know, maybe that's something that we can kind of focus on more, is just getting kids properly evaluated, or letting parents know the resources to getting them properly evaluated so that they are available for all these wonderful services that our school is able to provide. Because I think that I think that we could be helping kids even more, but as a district, we don't know what we don't know about the kids, you know? It's that communication on both ends that parents do have to take some responsibility of getting the right evaluation for their child. It shouldn't fall completely on the school, but, you know, there's got to be some middle ground where both can learn about how to go through this process together. So I think that's an excellent thing to work on.
Cool.
I just want to thank you for taking on this responsibility and for remaining optimistic. That's,
Yeah,
please remain so.
have to be optimistic. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the principals' reports. Who would like to go first?
Apparently Tracy would like to go first.
I never go first. Do you want to, is it this computer? Or? It is. No, you're going to do it. All right. Ooh, sorry.
Log in.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
So we were initially asked for our principal's report to do an initiative, to discuss briefly about an initiative for improving learning. Okay, good. So Bethany and I, because it's a K through 7 initiative, we wanted to just give you a brief overview of ST Math. And ST Math is a supplement to our math curriculum. Dr. Schwam, do you think you could turn off this light right here? Oh, thank you. And ST Math is difficult to understand what it is. When we initiated ST Math, students hated it. Parents hated it. I received so many parent calls complaining about it. What? I just did it. Is that okay?
Yes, that's, see, look, I
Oh,
logged in for you.
Bethany Chandler.
Yeah.
I don't know how that came up. I clicked the
I
wrong
can
thing,
solve,
but.
we can do any puzzle we want to.
All right, there you go. So this is a student view. The best way to understand ST Math is really to see it in action. And that's when I had an aha moment, was working with some 7th graders a few years ago. And I was like, oh, this is why I'm getting complaints. So this is negative numbers. And so it starts off with an easy puzzle. They call them puzzles. So Gigi is the animal that the elementary school loves.
We love the penguin.
We've met Gigi.
And so this is
I have costumed.
this is what you get. This is what they log into. And so why do the kids not like it? Why do they get frustrated? There's no directions. What is it asking you to do, right? So I don't know. So when I sat down, I'm like, I don't know. What does this mean? I get that I have to move this thing, right? And I'm like, I don't understand. All right, so plus 10 degrees. I think they want me to add 10 degrees to the model that's already there, right? So so I would try that. Of course, I can't do it on this computer. And see if I'm right. And the kids and I would guess, and we would try and do it. And then you hit this, and Gigi tells you if you're correct or not. And then it shows you the model, and it tells you if you're correct, right? And so I wasn't correct. And it tells you, nope, you weren't correct. And you needed to look at the model to tell what it was asking you to do. And so then, it gets increasingly more difficult as you go through the puzzles. And so it's very frustrating for the kids because it gets increasingly more difficult. But once they catch on, they're like, oh, all right, so now negative 24 degrees, positive 24 degrees. All right, well, this has added some more complexity to this. I'm at 60 degrees, so what is it asking me to do? Maybe I'm going to take a guess, but hopefully I'm right. And they have to get a certain completion, right? And the teacher can monitor that completion. And then it shows you, and then Gigi tells you if you're right. All right, and then you move on. And remember, it increasingly gets more difficult. Mrs. Chandler is going to show you, Dr. Chandler is going to show you, I don't know how I even got into that, to show you a first grade one, just so you can get an idea.
This will take me 1 second. I'm going to try to log out. Maybe just X out. Oh, no.
I don't know
That's
what I
okay.
did.
No, it's
Go-
okay.
Go,
What?
just hit your link, she said. Oh,
Hold on.
no.
Oh, I got it. I got it. I
Yay.
got it. Wait, I got it. I know what to do. All learning objectives. Thousands of learning objectives. It's loading for me. So while Tracy's speaking and she was talking about the difficulty, it's the complexity of the problem solving, is that children are forced to think. You're actually thinking and you're like, ooh, I got this wrong. So what am I going to navigate through? I'm going to show you a first grade, so kindergarten through fourth grade, work an average of 30 minutes on ST math. I'll do addition and subtraction with equations. So this is a first grade lesson. There's 98 puzzles alone with just addition and subtraction of equations. And from being a former math teacher, I'm going to tell you what I enjoy particularly about this. I'm going to do this problem right here. So Gigi's a little bit bigger and funner in elementary school. This is a first grade problem. Although it's simple, it's teaching children what the equal sign means, which is balance. Not only that, this is an atypical sign in first grade that's introduced. It's usually introduced from a math teacher's perspective in middle school and high school, but it teaches children that this is a math symbol of non-equal. But I do know that 3 does equal 3, and I'm going to press there and press play and see what happens. It shows balance and it shows equity, and it's in the center. And I think that that's really wonderful for first grade. Here, I'm showing, okay, I don't have balance. 4 is greater than 1. I'm going to click this non-equal sign, and you press play. And as Ms. Cote, and as Ms. Cote said, it is, yeah.
So you actually said it. 4 is greater than 1. So why are we using does not equal, which is not, frankly, a common mathematical thing, in many situations? Why don't we use a less than or greater than sign?
Oh, I'm sure that among the 96 lessons, greater and less than, it's getting there. But right now in these puzzles, all they want to teach is equal, non-equal, not greater than, less than.
6 years old, Jen.
But
As we go,
Well, no, but I see what you're saying.
But they'll change the symbols, and they probably, I'm not sure in first grade because I'm not familiar with it, but I bet they'll change it, and even in first grade when you get on with the puzzles.
Yeah.
And so what we really like about ST Math that the kids didn't like at first, I don't hear the complaints anymore like I did, but it's not rote learning. They're not just adding 3 plus 3. It's making them think. It's making them do the critical thinking. And most online applications have a hard time doing that. But ST Math has gotten to that point for our kids. And you should see the 7th grade ones. And it's making them add, subtract, multiply, divide, do fractions. But they're also getting a visual representation with ST Math. So.
These are the amount of puzzles, Mr. Sweat, within first grade. Within the first grade, all of these are also, you can see addition, subtraction, equations, composite shapes, bundles of 100. I'm just seeing if there is greater than, less than within these, money. It goes on and on and on, so.
And teachers can specify what puzzles they assign to their children. They can go through the journey, or they can assign the journeys, the puzzles, with the students. So if they see a gap in learning, they can assign that to specific students as well.
So how does this compare to Century?
Century is more of a curriculum that can be followed. Okay, this is a supplement. This is
Got it.
not a curriculum.
Understood.
And ST Math at the middle school is mainly used for homework. Okay, and they have to complete so many puzzles. And certainly, if they're having a difficult time, teachers have built in a time that they can come in at the beginning or end of class and get help with certain puzzles.
Could you tell if a student had their older sibling do it versus themselves?
Probably not, probably not. Some kids, though, enjoy it so much, they go through the entire grade level, and we move them on to the next grade level, because they enjoy the puzzles.
The teachers can monitor it
And
like
when they do it
monitor.
at home,
Yeah.
it electronically gets transmitted to the teacher?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
so they can
see,
tell.
Yep.
Well, maybe, okay.
I
But
had
the bottom
one
line is, by the time they get to school, the teacher already has the homework.
Oh, yes, yeah, definitely. It's electronically on there for them.
My
They
dog
can-
can't eat it?
You're out of luck.
I just want to mention, though, too, that what's really interesting about ST Math is that we have been able to connect the NWEA data and the MCAS data through ST Math. So we have these very deep, data-rich conversations comparing and contrasting the amount of time spent on puzzles and then the results, how many RIT score points they've gone up, how many points they've gone up on MCAS. And we've really built this connection so that we can actually see, are we making progress, and does it make sense with what we're teaching with curriculum, and is it actually a supplement that's worthy of getting kids to move where we need them to go?
Is ST Math, is it aligned with MCAS, NWEA, both? More with NWEA than MCAS, or vice versa?
I'd say-
How's the alignment?
The alignment is with our standards for
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
standards-based, just like NWEA and MCAS.
So their ST Math is aligned with both?
So children can go on, so what happens this year, ST Math has joined in conjunction with NWEA. So our students right now are taking their mid-year math NWEA. Once we get those results, then those NWEA results go to ST Math, and children go on journeys. And they are practicing what they did not do well on the NWEA within their ST Math
ST
journey.
And they're doing it at home?
Yes, we do some independent at our school. Yeah, we do like some centers, so when a teacher is with a small math group, for instance, I'll have a center of students working on ST Math.
So how young what grade are students actually doing homework, ST Math homework?
Well, in kindergarten, we start with homework, about 10
Really?
minutes. Oh, yes, we have 10 minutes of homework, but per grade, we go up in about 10 minutes
Time.
yes.
So by third grade, they might be doing a half
30
an hour
minutes.
or something?
This might be, it's a serious question, I promise, but is there a tutorial for parents? I mean, at the lower levels, yeah, I'm sure it's easy,
No,
but...
And it's frustrating to parents, but what we say to parents is don't help them, because we want to know if they're struggling, because then the teacher can adjust their journeys.
It's not a matter of helping, it's a matter of figuring it out for ourselves, too. No, I mean that seriously, because my son has brought home math homework that I know how to get the answer, but I don't know how they are expected to get the
And
answer.
sometimes you don't know how to help him get the answer.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we were taught a different way, and I want him to learn according to the curriculum, but I learned a different way, you know?
ST Math definitely has a lot of parental information, so that was the frustration in the beginning. But I think because Wes is doing ST Math now, that I just don't have the parents asking those questions. So they
Good,
weren't familiar with it, but I think they're very familiar with it now.
Okay, good.
So-
But this
there's
is
a lot
just,
of
this is just math homework. Is there a guideline per grade as to how much homework a third
No,
grader should get?
that's a good question. So the ST Math doesn't have to be used as homework. We just tend to use it as homework at the
Okay.
middle school. We have a calendar, and they have to be at a certain % of completion for puzzles. So, and we reward them if they're at it. So the middle school had a big reward in December. They had to be at 35% complete. 300 of our students at the middle school were at 35% completion because we want them to get to a certain completion before the end of the year.
For ST Math?
Yes, because ST Math says if they get to that certain point, then that's going to make the biggest growth difference.
Okay. But on top of that, they could have,
Oh, yeah, they have other homework. So
Other
ours
homework.
says, our teachers say you need to complete so many puzzles a week by Friday. And if you get it all done on Monday, you get it all done on Monday. But by Friday, you have to have this many complete. And then the teachers look and see if it's complete
and
for
does the
math.
other homework tend to be electronic as well?
Not necessarily. In
They do a
ELA,
lot.
it's
You have
typically
reading, like
reading.
reading
Yeah.
logs. We do
Yeah.
a lot of
They
reading.
do a lot of writing, too,
Okay, so
physical writing.
they're not submitting writing electronically in 7th grade.
No, I mean, sometimes they are, it just
Sometimes, but
depends.
it's both.
Yeah,
It's both.
yeah. It just depends.
So I just sent out a little bit of data on it, of just about from Wareham Elementary and Wareham Middle. As you can see, it's on-time data, so we can see the average puzzle goal progress, this week's puzzles, how many puzzles on average, this year's puzzles, how many puzzles have been solved within our schools, and how many minutes a day typically a child is spending. As you can see, middle school, and we're right around 38 minutes at Wareham Elementary and 39 minutes at Wareham Middle, so Tracy and I planned that.
Is it predictive?
Yeah, about 40 minutes a day.
Is it predictive of an MCAS score?
Yes-ish.
It is.
Was that an ish?
Yes, I'm going to let Dr.,
But they'll-
it's new, so Dr. Schwab
Right,
can
so
speak to it.
what they do is they'll look at every grade level and then the amount of time that students spend on ST Math and then compare their score.
Okay.
And so, for example, I was online with the data people and we had a long discussion about it because I had a lot of questions, but I think we averaged about a gain of 16 or 17 points greater than. And then my question became,
I'm
well,
sorry,
what?
you do explain that.
So 16, our scores for each of those kids with the time, we had 16 point something gained as a result of their
Like
participation.
480 to 496.
Correct. So my next question was, well, how many points should we? Right? And really, we need 30. So we're a little bit more than halfway there from where we are. And now, as the energy has increased more and more over time, the level of participation is greater. And so the hope is that we can get that 30-point gain, because the 30-point gain means going from partially meeting
Right.
to meeting, right? So that's just in MCAS world,
If
but
their goal is 35, what was it, 35 puzzles? or-
that's following the formula that ST Math has given us to get there.
Right, but if they achieve that goal, and they're not achieving the points, only a 16 out of 30-point improvement, then the goal isn't hard enough.
Well, then we stop paying them,
So what
because they're telling us, and we're talking to them a lot about this with their data people, because they're promising us, so to speak, that, and we also vetted the program. It's a good program, but I want to see the gains that they are promising. So if we say to them, we have an average of 40 minutes a day for all of our students. You told us that if we participated and contributed, so then the assumption in my mind is that we'll have those gains, right? And if we don't, then we need to look at them. If we are doing everything that we're supposed to do.
But are you saying so far,
We're moving in a direction.
but we haven't achieved the gains that they promised?
No, we haven't given the time.
Because it's the first year?
No, it's just it takes a while to get it into the system and how we move. So last year, for example, was the first year the elementary was really energized by it. They had it, but they were, they had to sort of try it on and figure it out, and does it work? And, right? I mean, it's just hard to institute
It's also
it.
just getting the minutes that they say they need to be doing the puzzles. So
Right.
I'm not
Except
going
that this is at home.
Not always.
Not always, but a
We
lot
are
of it.
doing it at home, right? But like you said, it's only part of the homework. So you can't, they're not going to spend an hour on it a night. I'm not going to ask them to spend an hour on it a night. You know
But
what I
what
mean?
if an hour is necessary for them to achieve
Right, and
full
they
full
could,
MCAS?
and they could choose to, but are we going to force kids to be on the computer for an hour at night just on math? We're not.
It's not a question of force, it's a question of if we need them to get 500 or better.
Yeah.
And it takes an hour at night, then don't we have an obligation to give them the opportunity to be successful?
Well, they have the opportunity to do that. Anyone can do it. As I said, we
Anyone
have
can do it, but if they're given a goal that is insufficient,
we can agree to disagree. I don't think we're giving them a goal that's insufficient. We're giving them a goal that's manageable for the age level that we
But it's
believe that they're
it's
at.
recommended by ST Math. So we're giving them the goal that's recommended by ST Math. And ST Math has said, if you participate this much, then you can bank on raising your scores.
What does the outside research say about what STMath says? Have we done that?
Well,
There must be some research studies on
There's
it.
huge research on it. So they're on the DESI list, they're on the Curate list, they're on the Ed Reports list. So there's a ton of information that says it works. So we're not coming at it
No, I was just
blind.
wondering, so, yeah.
Right, no, and I get that. And I'm, you want to do what's right.
when will
and-
you know if it's worked?
Well, we'll know when I send them, so we'll talk to them again, like I did last year, and we followed up with more conversation.
I'm
And so
hoping this year we
This
really-
year, I think we'll be able to see larger gains than we did the year before, but it's not bad, like 16 point whatever points is not awful. We're moving. And we're at least moving, and now we tweak. We say, okay, we need a little bit more time, or we need to incentivize it, or we need to do whatever we need to do on our end to get more time, or the recommended time for more students,
Like it's been an hour
and they do
on
that.
this.
And
Yeah. That
not to
wasn't-
mention,
that-
Mr. Swett, this is a supplemental program. My
Yeah,
students spend 90 more minutes on other math programs within Wareham
Right.
Elementary School, including number
Correct.
corner, right? So Envision,
teaching.
Bridges.
We're teaching.
We're teaching. I also have automaticity working with extra
Extra math,
math.
yep.
So, I mean, we really
All
are
right.
doing it to a hilt.
At Wareham Middle School, student attendance was 93% December and November. The attendance rate for staff was 98% in December. We had really good attendance in December. January, I'm not sure is going to go so well. Student events, we had a great winter band concert in December. We had a high honors breakfast for parents and students. And we are very, very excited at Wareham Middle School. We are going to have an art exhibit at the Bluefoot Cafe starting in February. So stay tuned. Please go to the Bluefoot Cafe and see all of our wonderful artwork from our students.
They have great coffee.
Thank you, and very quick transition to that very report.
So 98% attendance
For staff,
for staff. Oh,
Yes.
okay. And it was
93 for students. I mean, I keep averaging 93, but I still have a ton of chronically absent kids. So it doesn't make me happy.
I understand, but 93 is at least respectable.
No, Yes, yes.
Obviously, the kids who are chronically absent are a
It's
big
just-
problem.
Yeah, it's hard.
Well, let's make it really inconvenient for the parents of those kids.
Boy, I'm trying, but the doctors aren't helping me with doctor's notes. So,
Wareham Elementary, we're a little bit lower with staff attendance, 92%. Unfortunately, I think that COVID sickness and has really gotten to us. Students are a little bit down too with 92%, but we're working on it. We still have wonderful attendance initiatives occurring at Wareham Elementary. Good news, I don't know if you all saw you had to really look at the picture in the front cover of the Wareham Week this week. About the polar plunge? No?
Oh,
I did see that.
the group from,
There was 15 of us, 15
Wait, were you
brave
there?
staff members from Wareham Elementary School who plunged in to the,
And does that
waters
relate
of
to the
uncertain-
92% attendance, because they're
right?
all still
We're-
frozen?
Right? Maybe that's one of our problems.
They weren't in
We're
school, I'm
daredevils,
assuming.
right? We got too cold. But no, it was really great. It was our first year ever where we got together, 15 of us, to plunge into.
I was on the
bank.
pier watching. You, like,
You what? Did you see? We had T-shirts made and everything.
Joyce, you were the only smart one.
Was Gigi there?
I should have put her on. I would have been sunk at the bottom of the bag. But no, and then we had, just a lot of amazing events in December with everything that was happening between our holiday fair. Santa came. We had a nice time. The Nitwits came back for their hat and mittens. We had a wonderful time with them. It's just a really great giving
concert, yeah,
season. We
great
had,
concert.
our concerts.
no, the.
Oh, we had we had a holiday concert. So we're coming back and everything is just very much back to normal, which is exciting. I did pass out to the committee members our future school schedule of events for the remainder of the year. It will be added to, but the two upcoming events I wanted to bring the committee's attention to is February 8th, we're having our winter concert at 6 p.m. And February 15th is our ever-famous Hall of Presidents, where our grade 1 and 2 students dress as the presidents and speak to their historical legacies. So we look forward to those two events in February.
Gateway Dental is presenting twice.
Yes, well, we have a big school, so they can't get to everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot of teeth in that.
A lot of missing teeth.
So maybe anytime the staff absenteeism rate isn't higher than the student absenteeism rate, they should do laps around the school.
Okay. Well, we are very courageous, so we were about up to
Yeah.
anything, so maybe.
You can walk into the Buzzards Bay, with swimsuits on and nothing else. You can do laps if you.
That's right, we can.
I have a better idea. How about every time that the rates are off, they have to do another
We
polar
have to go
plunge?
back
They will
into the
be
water
there.
again.
They'll be dragging kids with them.
Well, thank you for those reports. Mr. Palladino, you're up.
Great. So our student attendance rate for the month of December was 92%, dipped down a little bit lower than it was in September through November. We had a lot of students with COVID, unfortunately, which we also had a lot of students with staff. At one time, we had 8 staff members out with COVID in December, so it was a tough month for us. We're hoping that we paid our dues in December, and January is going to be a great month, but it was really tough. There were times with the teachers being out, it was tough to even cover classes. So we're looking forward to a better month of January and anticipate that we'll have better numbers to share with you in February when we report on the January data.
So what was the number for the staff with all that COVID?
Let me just go back to that. That was 93%. Sorry.
Can I just, real quick before you go on, just so that I know and, other people can hear it, what is the policy now if your child gets COVID? I mean, is it still quarantining for 5 days? What is the?
5
is that
days out,
recommended?
5 days with a mask.
Okay, excellent.
It's
Thank you.
pretty straightforward,
Yep.
and it's worked well for us, although December wouldn't show it, but prior to that, it has worked out well for us. But appreciate you all recognizing the 21 seniors that were John and Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients. We're very excited for them, and we anticipate you'll be hearing their names a lot more throughout the year, receiving many other awards and scholarships. We also appreciate you recognizing JROTC Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Robert Sylvia. I know he really wanted to be here, and he's just a great young man, and he's done a great job with the JROTC program over his 4 years with the program. Drama just finished up before the holidays, 3 amazing nights of the Wizard of Oz, and we were blessed to have some middle school students involved, which was a really cool collaboration between the drama program at the middle school and the high school. And I think it just creates a great continuum as the students matriculate into the high school. And that took place December 15th through 17th, and they packed the auditorium. I was really impressed with the audience. I was there on Friday night, but I saw the numbers from the other 2 nights, and it was amazing. The kids did a wonderful job, and our advisor, Candy, does a wonderful job, and they're preparing, as you heard from Gisela, for festival, which is an amazing event, and we made it all the way to States last year in Weymouth, and I had the pleasure of going to Weymouth Middle School to see the festival competition, and we did really well. I think it was the best score we've ever received at the state level in at least 30 years, so it was just amazing, and they're doing a great job, and they're very appreciative of the lights in the auditorium. Now we can see all the areas we need to address in the auditorium that we couldn't see when it was a little darker, but it's a good problem to have. The band concert was on December 13th, and again, they packed the auditorium, and Dr. Roth has been doing an unbelievable job since he came into the high school 6 years ago to really build that program up to the point where they're packing the auditorium for their concerts. Chess Club is back in action, starting their competitive season here in January, and as you mentioned, Brendan, the boys basketball team and girls basketball team is undefeated, I might add. They've got the best record in the school, just saying. But the boys basketball team just came back from Orlando, Florida. As you know, you approved that trip last year, and they had a very competitive tournament. They went 1-2. Lost 1 game in overtime, but they played some of the best competition in North America, and most importantly, they had a great time and really enjoyed the experience, and I think they definitely had a chance to bond as a team, but more importantly, kind of get out of Wareham and see some sights, and obviously hit a few amusement parks as well there. Our boiler project is almost 100% complete. I feel like this is the never-ending project. But, the most important thing is the boilers are working, they're functioning, the classrooms are warm, sometimes too warm. We're not used to that.
Don't tell Kristen that.
What's that?
Don't tell Kristen that.
Well, they're very efficient, she knows that, but we're working with Robbie and the crew to make sure that they're balanced and the classrooms are balanced, but we're just working off a punch list there, and again, thank you for the auditorium lights. Great addition.
What is incomplete about the boiler project?
Right now, there's insulation and there is ignition on one of the boilers that they have to work out some kinks. Nothing too crazy. Just had to paint some walls where they had to put in mixing valves. It's really minor stuff. They're going to, I believe, come in on the in-service day next Friday and just kind of bang everything out and be done with it. Obviously, they want to move on and close this out as well. All right, so I mentioned earlier, DECA students are down in Hyannis competing. They competed today, obviously. And tomorrow is the awards night, awards day, I should say. I'm hoping to get down there for the second award ceremony. And thank you, Dr. DeAndrea and Ms. Bakayaki. That was awesome that you guys were able to get down there and be judges, and it's a great experience. I wish it was in Falmouth, but Falmouth was so easy to get down there for the awards ceremony. Hyannis requires a little more driving, but it's a great event. The kids are really excited. They were excited when they left. And I know they'll be bringing back some medals, so we're pretty excited to see how they do. Tomorrow afternoon, when they come back, our college homecoming is taking place for the seniors, and this is always a great event for the graduates. And it was interesting when Mr. Sweat mentioned, talking with the volleyball players and hearing what they say about their experience. And that's kind of what we get. And usually there's a couple of tennis players. Usually there's a couple tennis players that are there as well. And it's just great to hear the kids talk about their experience in Wareham and how that has translated into such a positive experience in college. And oftentimes, as you've heard Mr. Sweat, they'll say, one of my teachers at the high school was tougher than any of the college courses I've taken or any of the college professors I've had. That's really exciting for me because obviously it allows for them to assimilate into college and be successful, and it's never going to be for a lack of talent, that's for sure. So excited to see that take place and to hear the students talk about their experience. Our grades are closing in 2 weeks on the 19th, and on the 20th, on a Saturday, we do our AP and IB mock exams that will take place. Just to keep you updated on some initiatives that we're working on, although we don't have the awesome graphics that you saw today, we are working with TNTP. I know we've talked about that a number of times, and our land group. So the New Teachers Project and the Learning Action Network, where we actually have already completed with central administration, with our group. We've done rounds, and that's been really cool. Dr. Schwam, Dr. DeAndrea have been involved with that, and I think it's a great activity for us to go into the classrooms and see the level of rigor and the organization, and also to see our teachers using this new Study Sync program, which we really are excited about, and the teachers are excited about, which is most important. And the kids are enjoying the experience as well, which obviously we need the buy-in from them. So it's been going really well. We've been involved with NUIA assessments. We're on to our second assessments coming up this month, which is exciting in both math and ELA. Just having tangible data to continue to try and build on. And we obviously are anticipating some significant growth from the start of the year. And the department heads are very happy with both the Study Sync and the illustrative math programs. And I think we've done a great job. The supervising evaluators and administration getting into classrooms. We have over 400 observations that are recorded to date. So things are going really well, and certainly entertain any questions you might have.
Joe?
So I recently saw a poll that the people, I'm trying to remember whether it was parents, maybe it was just adults, but bottom line is the poll is showing a significant drop in people who believe that a college education is a good value. Are you seeing any indication at the high school level of kids thinking that it's not?
Well, our numbers for the last couple of years would say that's not being observed at the high school. Our numbers are pretty consistent as far as percentage of kids that are anticipating going into college.
It was down in the mid-40% who thought it was a good value.
You know what the problem is? It's the majors that they're choosing. That's not a good value. You can't choose any major and find a job nowadays. That's the problem. So we're getting a lot of young kids that want to sub because they can't get a job because they chose.
Yeah, the whole issue.
Basket weaving.
The whole issue, and this is a long conversation, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but the whole issue of the value of a liberal arts education as compared to something very specific that gives you a specific skill set. Right. Okay, and yet there are people who will defend a liberal arts education. Yes. Okay, and exactly, that's the debate you can have. But Tracy's 100% correct. It's a whole lot easier to justify it if you come out with a skill set that is quite a bit that is very marketable.
And that's the key. And there's something about, a Wareham student, and it's been that way for a long period of time. They're very savvy. These kids, we don't have a lot of kids going into, no disrespect, Ms. Majoli, but liberal arts. These kids know what they want to do when they're going to college, and they usually don't change their majors. It's very rare that we'll have a large percentage of kids change their majors once they get into college. They know what they want to do, and, as long as they can support it financially, they stick with it. When I was in school, it was like, get your degree and then go and get a master's and figure out what you want to do. These kids, they're pretty driven, and I think a lot of it has to do with the programs we have at the high school and the support our staff and guidance counselors give them, like, they spend a lot more time and guidance on, like, financial aid and looking at your awards package, and a lot more than I remember anyone spending with me. So I think, and maybe it's a demographic thing, maybe it's, you know, our demographic that's what we have to do, but our kids, they're savvy. They like, you know, you see it. You know, the kid gets into Providence College, but goes to UMass Dartmouth, because they're not going to have the ball and chain for 15 years after they graduate. They're smart. They don't make the mistakes that I've seen other kids in other towns make.
I had a tennis kid a week after graduation who considered me, and I considered it a major compliment, a little bit of a mentor, sends me a long text saying her parents will not pay for college unless she chooses a specific major. She wanted my advice. So, yeah, I mean, parents realize that they're paying a lot of money and they want their kids to come out with a marketable skill set.
Right. But I still stand by, I think it's the best investment you can make.
Do our guidance, Brent, do our guidance counselors push this issue or at all?
It's a fine line, because obviously anyone in that building that's a guidance counselor, teacher, administrator is biased for pro-college.
No, when I say push a certain major or that sort of thing.
No, but they spend a lot of time working with our Naviance program to make sure the kids understand what is the end game, what are you gonna get when you come out. Okay, you know, because with some kids, they're not afraid of a little debt because they're gonna be making 6 figures when they graduate. So theoretically, so through the program, they're able to kind of figure this out and, you know, see what the risk reward is on something like that. But they make sure they educate the kids, but not to a point where they're pushing them in one direction or the other.
Informing but not guiding them.
Better way of saying it. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, is there any particular fields that a lot of our graduates are going towards? I mean, is it all over the place, or is it their specific, you know, computers, politics, whatever? What are they going towards?
A lot in technology and a lot in business, and you can understand why when you look at our programs. That's what I wish there were more going into education, but again, I'm biased and I have to stay away from it. But it's again, it's the business is the big thing.
DECA encourages business.
Right. It's always been that way. I mean, you know, art. There's a lot of kids going to the field of art as well. But again, when you look at our programs, you can see why those kids are going in that direction.
Yeah, when you say art, you probably mean graphics and
graphic and
design,
art therapy.
Thank you, Mr. Palladino. All right.
Thank you all three.
Thank you. Our next item is actually tabled until our next meeting, the IB report. So that's going to happen on January 18th. Everyone should be receiving that report, I hope, within a few days. The final edits, I believe, are being put on it.
Oh, we're going to receive it before the...
Yeah, you'll receive it
great.
well before
Thank
that. At least 10 days before that.
Great.
Okay. Next up, the Director of Finance, Kristen Flynn, with the budget transfer.
Didn't we rule those out? Just kidding. I got you.
I didn't quite hear what you said. So I was still thinking about the whole liberal arts conversation. So, for what it's worth, I too am a proponent of a liberal arts education.
Here.
And that's a finance person.
That's correct. That's correct. So I think you can do anything with the liberal arts.
Yes, amen.
But tonight I do have a budget transfer for you, and it's for our likely transfers. This is for special education out-of-district transportation. We had one new student outplaced recently, so we just need a little bit more money to help us pay those bills through the end of the year. So that's the transfer that I have. I'm looking for to transfer $15,000 into special ed out-of-district transportation. And just as an aside, now that we're about almost halfway through the year, my plan is to look at all of our open purchase orders in transportation. And as we've been going throughout the year, as we know, students are moving in, they're moving out, they're changing placements. So we're adjusting those POs at the time, but just to do a catch-all, probably at the end of January, once we receive all of our December invoices, just to see where we're at, if we need to adjust any of those POs and maybe free up some funds for a few that we, haven't attended every day, for example, because we do the purchase order as if they're going to attend school every day. And we know that that's not always the case. So now that we have September, October, November, December's attendance, then we can make those adjustments. But in the meantime, in order to continue to pay these invoices, I do need need to review this transfer.
Joyce?
I just have a quick question, and I think I already know the answer, but, so under current budget, it says transportation, special ed in and out is 19,314.
Yes.
But you've encumbered everything that you know of through the end of the year.
So
Okay.
this transfer, the only thing that's not encumbered in special ed transportation is this new student that we have. So this 15,000 will get us to encumber everything that we know of right now. For example, in upcoming meetings, you'll likely see a transfer for the regular ed side, the Foster and McKinney-Vento, because again, just this week, over the past few weeks, we've got 4 additional students that are either Foster students or McKinney-Vento students that have not obviously been encumbered for. So we do have a little bit of money left there, but that one is just so transient, especially, we were talking about it in my office and with my department, that especially this year, we're just seeing so much more change and so much more demand for this transportation. And I don't think I think it's probably throughout the Commonwealth too. We just see so many more students, moving, but then retaining the right to go to school in their home district and getting transported from, an hour or more sometimes to attend school.
Jeff?
You lumped McKinney-Vento and Foster together.
Yes.
Why?
Well, you're not going to like my answer because the Department of Education does. So when we code expenses, they're either coded for special education or non-special education. So in the budget lines, there's 2 lines for out of district for vendor transportation. One is for special education students because we have to report on to DESE expenditure specific to special education students. And so the other line item is non-special ed. So the budget line for non-special ed students is for McKinney-Vento and Foster students.
But a Foster student is not necessarily eligible for transportation.
If they are, so let's say, for example, we have a student who's attending Wareham Public Schools and is placed in a foster home in New Bedford. They can, now they're living in New Bedford, but they can retain the right to come to school, to stay at their district of origin. And it's a best interest determination between, I think, DCF and the 2 schools involved.
I just learned something.
And that
Really?
one, Foster Student Transportation, is on I believe it's on the home district, the district of origin, and there's no reimbursement for Foster Student Transportation.
When does it end? And that's not considered school choice.
No. Mm-mm.
My goodness gracious.
It's definitely challenging and again, I think for all districts, I think it's very challenging.
So, completely a different subject. When we ask a private bus company, because we don't have a driver or a bus or whatever, to transport a student, do we automatically get a quote from them before we transport them the first time?
Yes. So for the Foster students and the McKinney-Vento students, it's required by law if you're going to go over 10,000. And let's face it, we're going to go over 10,000.
Per year, you mean?
Per year, correct. For special education students, special education services are exempt from public procurement laws. However, it is our practice to get a quote for each and every vendor transportation, whether it is required by law or not. Now, there are some students this year who are special education students who, for various reasons, either we had a favorable rate last year, and, between myself and Ms. Ferreira, the transportation director, we felt if we put this out to bid, this might be an invitation for it to go up. Or it might be in the best interest of the student to retain, for whatever reason, with that particular provider, with that driver, with that monitor, with that routine. So, so there are some students, special education students this year, who retain their same transportation as last year, and that's well within the law to do so. However, for the Foster students and McKinney-Vento students, we are required to put that out to quote to comply with the law. Now, say in the case of in some of the students in McKinney-Vento where it's shared, say the transportation is procured by another district. Well, we don't necessarily know that we're not procuring it, so we're not getting the quotes. In some cases where we did have one that we felt the quote was higher than what Marie thought that she could do, she could go out to bid and get a better quote. We did do that, and we saved both districts money by doing it. So there's definitely a lot of, not just money, but also time and energy that goes into this between transportation, special education, and the business offices. It is definitely a challenge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I have a motion to accept the transfer?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. 400. Thank you. Dr. DeAndrea, you're up.
Sir. So for my report, this meeting, I just have one item. I ask for your approval for the listed payroll and bill warrants.
So
So-
moved. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I'll take that as a so moved, and I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400.
Thank you very much.
That it?
That is all I have.
Wow, all right. The report of the school committee mass delegate report, we all had that report. Basically, many of the items were tabled that were in the resolution. Was that?
Everything was tabled except for one.
So you have that information going forward, so I'm sure we'll hear about those issues again next year. And any other business? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 400. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.